Hey everyone, David from the present here. My friends just call me David. The from the present part is usually assumed. I'm just here in the booth to segue between this episode and the last, as what on the day seemed like it would be 2 episodes has spilled into what can only be described as 3 episodes. Not going to lie, catching the previous 2 would give you a lot of context as well as disclaimers for why we're doing things the way we are this time around, but right up top we have an EP out to accompany these episodes. If you like the music in these episodes, you can catch it on bandcamp.com, and that is the best way you can support the channel. But if you could also leave a like, that would be a huge plus. This platform's been undercutting our videos recently for reasons unknown, but they're getting less than a tenth of the views that we've got in the past, so you'd be really helping us out if you drop a comment below. Anyway, back to business. Where we left off last time, we'd just seen the archaeological park at Laodicea, so we'll pick it up from there. So yeah, Laodicea was just incredible. And what followed? Do you recall the drive after this?
I believe so. It was a long drive through Alpine mountains. It was gorgeous though, wasn't it?
Yeah, we had to ascend to a remarkable height. Like, you could see it there on the map, but it was a bit like, are you sure about this? It seems to just be standing, and it's like, just go up.
Yeah.
It's just these winding roads that seem to just wind infinitely without actually arriving anywhere. And then suddenly we're over the crest of the range, and you could see down to the other side.
Oh, it was gorgeous though. I'd gladly do that drive again.
Yeah, it was a really nice evening. And where we got to, I'll flash up the actual name of it below, because I'd actually really recommend this place.
Yeah,
we jokingly refer to this as the Turkish Rivendell.
Yep, it had a little river running through it, its own fish.
Yeah, so this is kind of the restaurant area. You can see this quite so fast-flowing river with various of torrents and everything kind of just down below. But this whole channel was running through the restaurant area. Just unbelievable.
It was a gorgeous spot.
The accommodation and the guys who ran it was a sort of smallish kind of place, but they were so friendly and easygoing. This is, magazines write about these sort of things all the time, like, oh, this hidden gem in... I'm not making any special claims about what we're doing, but this, we just got extraordinarily lucky, and this comparatively... I mean, okay, it's not remote, like, it was near a main road, so definitely grateful for that, but considering where most people are spending their time, if they're flying, into any of the airports on the... west coast of Turkey, this is pretty out of the way.
It seemed it, yeah.
A smallish place and just absolutely gorgeous, very Instagrammable, but they also just made us feel so welcome, and we had a lovely evening just sitting there, just taking time. So grateful for that one. I mean, the accommodation was quite basic, but we didn't mind in the slightest.
Food was great though. They specialise in fish, so I highly recommend that.
Yeah. Again, this is something I'm not a huge fish guy myself. It's not really my scene. I'm a recent convert to sort of seafood. But yeah, the fact that you could... this was actually like local fish, literally to the river there. And they had... that's of a pond in the middle of the restaurant where I think they were pulling... So yeah, incredible stuff. So next morning, this also has the advantage of being just a couple of miles down the road from Aphrodisias. Again, this has some of the most remarkable ruins you'll find anywhere, including, and I mean, this is a bold statement, this is, I think, one of the best stadiums you'll find anywhere. Should that be stadia? I know that's normally when you're using it as a measurement, but
stadia.
Yeah, it's
pretty tough to beat.
Incredible. The fact that it survives like at this length and it's all kind of been exposed like that.
I think that probably is the best preserved stadium I've ever seen.
Yeah. Again, just compared to, we've seen, Sean and I have seen a lot of Greek and Roman theatres of various sizes and in various places. So, yeah, this is...
I've been spoiled.
Yeah, this is really something. The rest of the site is great too. Again, we were there as early as we could be in the morning, so we did have advantage of a little bit of the cool of the day, but it didn't last very long. We were, thankfully able to spend some decent time kind of catching the various things around the site. We then, again, had quite a lot of distance to make up. We were a fair way into the interior of Turkey, and we basically had to head back towards the coast. The drive was, I think, more pleasant than the stretch we'd done kind of from Bergamo towards Hierapolis, because there was a lot more... I think I joked at the time, this kind of reminded me of Canada in various places.
Yeah, and you can kind of see why. It's surprisingly piney. For some reason, I just wouldn't have imagined that so much.
Yeah, very forested. I mean, of course, like absolutely boiling hot, as you might be able to see, the road was threatening to melt again.
Yep.
We were looking at it like, please be a solid, please don't. Once again, and I've actually not been able to re-find this on the map.
This was a gorgeous spot.
Yeah, we had this other we needed a place to take a breather, and as a place to just get a Turkish tea and a coffee in the shade of the trees. It's interesting. There is a lot in Turkey that is very catered to tourists. It's quite remarkable, even more than other places that maybe get even a higher sort of footfall. I mean, Greece does this to an extent, but not to the same extent, I don't think. You go to somewhere like Spain, of course there are the parts, mostly the parts that sadly have just tried to mimic parts of English culture, the worst possible idea. But most of it isn't that sort of tourist, set up for tourists in the way that this is.
Yeah, I think the best kind of touristic spots are those that seem to cater for their own nationals.
Yeah, I mean, it does keep a nice sense of the sort of Turkish identity and stuff, but also just a beautiful place to be. So yeah, this was a real treat. We then finally, now this is going to seem a bit strange if you've been sort of following this journey, we then made it to Bodrum. Now, as I mentioned right at the start of the first episode, Bodrum Airport is actually not all that close to Bodrum. I think it's something like a 45-minute drive.
That sounds about right.
It's a long way. So we'd actually started by flying into Bodrum Airport, but then instantly just headed north, saving the actual town itself for later. Now, there's quite a bit here, including... Sean, you remember this one?
No.
I mean, this is a major one.
Oh, yes, the mausoleum at Helicanus.
Having already caught one of the seven wonders of the ancient world, we were then fortunate enough to catch another. Now,
yes,
I mentioned that the Temple of Artemis at Ephesus is probably not going to really enchant those who aren't big history fans.
It's a glorified stalk nest now.
A little bit. The mausoleum at Halicarnassus, while, it's been set up for visitors as best it can be, there's not a tremendous amount there, apart from just a few bits of rubble that have kind of been arranged. Sean and I were discussing this at the time, like, it's a funny thing. It feels really good to say that you've been there to see it. You've seen more than enough ruins that we've been to, which are infinitely more impressive than...
I mean, I was very excited to see it, only because I was familiar with the Seven Wonders of the Ancient World since childhood.
Yeah.
Seeing, being able to tick off two, hadn't even ticked off one. Mind you, there aren't many that still exist. I mean, there's the Pyramid of Cheops at Giza, but not seen that.
Yeah, looking at it now, it seems puzzling with our sort of modern eyes. It's very unbalanced. You've got the pyramids being by far the largest, oldest, and still the most complete.
Yep, it's a structure.
I'm not going to go through the whole list. That's another... Someone else can sort that out. Anyway, suffice to say, it was nice to see, though not something you need to spend hours on. Now, the town of Bodrum itself, we did also dip into the castle, which was pretty great. I mean, there's several sort of historic layers represented there. The initial structure, I think there's older sort of structures there, not presented in the architecture anymore. I mean, it's a pretty impressive structure. What's even more remarkable is it houses the Turkish Shipwreck Museum.
Oh, yeah, that was great.
Now, I slightly played myself here. I knew enough about this that I knew it housed the Alubaran shipwreck. So I was like, oh, here we go. This is like the Bronze Age, you want to see this. However, I also feel stupid now, because what I didn't realise is that the Alubaran shipwreck was incredible for finds, and they're here. You see these finds from all over. It's a incredible example of how interconnected the Bronze Age Mediterranean was. Just track how far all these items have had to come to be here, and the fact they're all present, they're all being sort of moved around. Great. What I didn't realise is that the Alubaran does not actually exist as a physical wreck anymore. I mean, there might be some of it still on the sea floor, but it's not here in the museum. So this was very confusing to me. I ended up doing a lot of it's scattered between several buildings. So I was just running in circles like, what's going on? I've done this wrong. I got really confused because there's also, I mean, in fairness, one shipwreck they do have the actual wreck of is this sort of Byzantine era ship with, again, like a trove of incredible finds with it. So I was filming this, and I'm like, oh, there it is, there's the Alubaran. It was only when I got close that the label was like, wait a minute, what was this, like 7th, 8th century? Hang on, that's not right, what's going on? But anyway, I got there in the end. So yeah, saw the artifacts for the Alubaran. I will say there is a great model of it there, which is, that's brilliant to see, kind of gives you the idea of the scale of how it was all packed in there. So that was handy. So that was pretty good. The city of Bodrum itself is pretty tight and busy, and like quite sort of full on. Anyway, we dropped our stuff at the accommodation.
Yep.
Which was, basic but essentially fine. And we headed out for dinner, just kind of towards dusk. Now, what follows, and again, I don't have a lot of footage of this, so I'm mostly just going to loop this really nice footage of Bodrum Castle. There it is, you see? How best to describe this?
Well, we ventured out kind of fairly naively, only because we'd been spoilt by kind of a very laid-back reception everywhere we went. And, we were now in Bodrum, which caters heavily to British tourists and,
Yeah. And, like we kind of used this pattern, like, same in Greece. You just have this very long row of restaurants with just huge banks of seating outside. So, there's not much of a muchness between them. You don't need to be... It's like, they all cater to a similar sort of thing.
Yeah, we didn't have to walk far until we were accosted by some...
Yeah, one of the hosts was out front.
Yeah.
And we weren't in the mood to be hugely choosy, so this looks fine. And we got a great table by the water.
Yeah,
I mean, how lucky for us.
I was won over by their fish selection. I thought, they do fresh fish here. We're right by the sea, fresh fish. There were no prices on this, and I was talking about the red snapper. I thought, I'll have some red snapper. That'd be lovely. And along comes the menu. It's like, nigh on 100 quid for some red snapper.
So this was, kind of a shock. I mean, I've already mentioned that, with the lira where it is, normally you were sort of eating dishes for what would equate to about 6, maybe 7 English pounds, depending on where you were at, sometimes less.
Well, we didn't appreciate how different this was to everywhere else we'd been.
Yeah. So suddenly, you're kind of going on your phone like, wait, how much is that? Oh my goodness.
I know.
Right, dishes getting up to £100.
It's ridiculous. I mean, you wouldn't get that in the UK.
So that was a bit scary. But thankfully, we looked a bit further down the menu and like, oh well, look, they've got pizzas there. We did that. Oh, that's like about a tenner.
I mean, obviously.
Cool. Okay, fine. So
very happy.
The waiter comes back to our table, having guided us to this table. Oh yes, please sit down. And been extremely friendly, and so he said, right, what do you want? So we were like, right, okay, so can we have this pizza? And then someone else said, yeah, I'll have the pizza there. And I was like, yeah, can I have that? And the change on his face straight away.
Yeah, I know.
So very soon we were like, oh, right. He was expecting us to drop 100 quid each.
Well, he spoke to me. I was very frank, and he said, "Are you going to have the red snapper?" And having just found out that this was going to cost me 100 quid thereabouts, I said, "No, sorry, it's far too expensive for me. I'll have the." I was just going to go for.
We seem to have stepped on a bit of a trap card here because as soon as it turned out that we were ordering, I mean, Baron, this is their menu.
Yeah.
We weren't like going to a pizza restaurant saying like, oh, hey, could you make me some fried chicken? We were ordering from their menu.
Yeah.
But the guy suddenly turned from being like extremely, convivial and friendly to really quite angry.
I think I heard just a kind of a grunt.
And instantly he started muttering this thing like, oh, this is private table.
Yeah, that was it.
Now, this, again, please understand, we'd not,
He led us to this table.
Yeah, we had said, oh, is it okay if we sit there? And he'd come this way. So he had seated us at this table.
Yeah, I think he guided us there. I don't think we even inquired about it. I think he just...
So suddenly he is saying to us, no, this is a private... It's not clear what he means, like, this is a private table. So we were like, okay, so he's like scowling real heavily. So we're like, okay, there's some very strange...
He wanted to intimate that he made a mistake. Sorry, it's booked, basically.
Well, he was backpedaling really hard and not especially friendly. Not like, I'm terribly sorry, there's been a misunderstanding. He was... So eventually...
Instantaneous change.
We looked at each other and we were like, we need to leave. Like, we are very much not welcome. It's not even if we go and sit... Like, I'm not even sure they're going to let us order the pizza. Like...
Yeah.
I don't know if... Does this restaurant ever even cook a single pizza? Is that just on the menu as like a red...
I don't know.
Red herring, I don't know.
Yeah, I think he wanted us to sit on another table. This was obviously the special table, but we weren't going to pay 300 quid.
Yeah, and again, but having someone turn on you like that was very unsettling. Like, oh my goodness. So we were just like, look, let's get out of here. What on earth is going on? Let's just leave.
We just decided to go.
Funny enough, there was another waiter who tried to like re-attract us on the way. I was like,
what?
Oh, you guys, why are you going so soon? Oh, sit down. It's like, no, dude, no.
We were sat down.
So, okay, I have never had this. I mean, can you actually imagine? I mean, not just even in the UK, like anywhere else in the world, being seated at a restaurant table and then you try and order something from the menu, at which point you are ejected from that table for ordering something from the menu.
Yeah.
Just as a side-by-side comparison, I have been to Santorini, which is often famous, like, oh my goodness, it's so overcrowded, you've got to be so careful about the restaurants you sit down, oh, careful. I wouldn't have been surprised, because Santorini's very small, so everyone's very compact, it's very bottled in. I wouldn't have been surprised if something like that, not even close. I cannot imagine that happening. So, yeah, we were just absolutely baffled, like, what just happened?
Yeah, I think we're all slightly affronted.
Yeah, and again, to be clear, mate, this was the previous evening, bear in mind, we were in the Turkish Rivendell, like just having the most incredible hospitality.
Yeah.
And as Sean said, nowhere else in Turkey had anything like this taken place. Everyone had been like so friendly, whether they had English or none, just so smiley, accommodating, not a hint of... So anyway, this was all very strange, and I was feeling like kind of a bit shaken about it, like, oh my goodness, like we've committed some sort of faux pas, but what? Like, you kicked us out of your restaurant because we weren't spending enough? Like,
it was difficult to wrap your head around, really.
I mean, in the end, I don't actually remember what I ate in the evening in the end. We found another place and sat out. This was now away from the waterfront because, like, okay, there seems to be something weird going on here. Later, by the way, we wanted to make it back to the waterfront because there's like some nice beach there. But we kept getting hassled, like all of the hosts that line the kind of the strip there. They're also, like, again, they can get quite rude pretty quickly. So we just wanted to get down to the water. And so in order to do so, we had to sort of squeeze by some tables. And we had 2 or possibly 3 of these hosts like, excuse me, my friend, excuse me. They were trying to be like, they were basically, without actually saying it, saying, oh, you can't get out. They were like, oh, you lost. Oh, what's going on? Yeah. And we were like, no, we just ignored them because, like, clearly this is... So there's like people trying to hassle you from all directions. Yep. It's not nice. You can see this is not exactly a stirring endorsement of Bodrum.
No.
This is one of the very few places where I'd actually give you the advice. Like, yeah, sure, go there in the daytime, but probably avoid in the evenings. It's extremely busy.
Yeah. I mean, and that really was a scam. You see, I saw the fish counter, I expressed an interest, and I'm expected to, when I see the menu with the price for, 900 quid, to cave and just to accept because it's awkward now.
Yeah.
He's given me the nice table. And when you don't cave, when you say, no, it's too expensive for me, you get kicked out, basically.
So, yeah, a pretty weird experience all round. But there you go. So, okay, we got up sort of next morning in Bodrum. We are almost done, by the way. The trip is almost over. We had to... Sorry, this is a boring technicality. I am still surprised by this to this day. When you have car hire companies, that have branches in over 100 countries, and, in somewhere like Turkey, they have one at least every airport and in pretty much every major city. It is very strange to me, the cost involved with picking up your hire car in one location and then trying to drop it off somewhere else. When we looked into this, it was in the hundreds of pounds. Like, what? So ideally, because we were flying into Bodrum and out from Izmir, it would have been great if we could pick it up at Bodrum and then drop it off in another branch in Izmir, about 4 hours to the north.
Yeah.
But that was not a thing that you, well, again, without dropping, something like £300, which was like,
That's crazy.
ridiculous. So we contrived this thing, which is going to seem silly, but it just, the lowest cost way to do it. You can see we've formed sort of like a loop and kind of got back to almost where we started. We then dropped the hire car at the place next day, and then we got on a bus to Izmir, which was not particularly expensive and, fine enough. Izmir bus station. Do you remember, like, how absolutely vast and just intimidating that place was? It's this sort of huge mass of concrete, and we went inside. We were trying to find some cash because we needed to get a taxi. Didn't have any on us, but just finding a working cash point was quite a mission. So, while Izmir is an absolutely huge city, I think it's one of the largest cities in Turkey. It's absolutely massive. We particularly wanted to catch the ruins of Smyrna.
Or Smyrna?
One of the two. These were, they were kind of impressive. They had kind of a couple of highlights, like these sort of arches disappearing to a vanishing point are, delightfully photogenic. There's some restored colonnades out, but there's not a lot in the site. Like, you don't need ages and ages, sadly. Yeah, there's not a lot left of the ancient city, and there's, the modern city is just cascades over all of it. We were flying out that evening, so the rest of the day we were somewhat killing time. And Izmir is, it's a big, busy kind of bustling place. It was closer to when we were in Amman in Jordan. It's just practical, clothes shops and stuff for the residents, which, cool. But as such, it wasn't the most relaxing place to be. Eventually, after just sort of killing time getting coffee in some places, we ended up in this really nice bar on a sort of pier down at the water. And we had a really nice time just sort of
pickling ourselves.
Yeah, just having a few drinks and some reasonably priced food.
Yeah.
And just a relaxing afternoon, which, again, these boys have been extremely patient with our extremely full-on itinerary, just catching ruins upon ruins upon ruins. And I guess there's not a tremendous amount left to say about the day, because that evening we got to Izmir Airport and flew home, and that was basically it. So, I think you can see what I was talking about when I said we did cover a lot.
Yeah, I can't believe it was 1 week.
Yeah, well, again, and it was, basically that first day of the 7 was just arriving at Bodrum Airport at night. It was, everything else fitted into the remaining 6 days.
Yep.
But yeah, incredibly special. You can see why we'd want to make an episode about this, even though we haven't been able to go in depth into the sort of different sites, something we will absolutely do in future. But yeah, like one of those special trips that and it's funny, I keep forgetting just how incredible it was. I go back to this footage and it just keeps going, and you've got these Roman and Greek arches just to span. It's like, just unbelievable.
Yeah.
We were absolutely spoiled.
Indeed.
So, yeah, I don't know what people are going to make of this, with these episodes. There's not maybe a ton of useful advice buried in here. We're mainly just telling you guys about what we got up to. I'm not expecting anyone to follow this itinerary. It's a bit nuts. Something I didn't realise beforehand, mentioned earlier, sort of, 7 churches in Revelation. You can actually do tours based around those 7. It is there's Pergamon, Ephesus, Smyrna, Laodicea. And there was one more we got to. There were 2 that we didn't get to, but just as it happens, I'll flash them up on the screen now, but while there are like some ruins, they're not comparable to the ones that we've already mentioned. So I feel like, Sardis was the one I forgot to say just in the list there. So the remaining 2, we could have done those, but we didn't miss out by missing them. And as I mentioned, there was still like a whole bunch that we could have added. We could have easily done another 6 days of this, or spend a much greater number of days doing all of these things just much slower. We don't have the budget to be going on holidays for days and days and days, but
whenever you look at a map of Turkey, it's always just too enticing to see more of the place. You know, you make a route and you think, oh, I don't really want to leave that out.
Yeah. So yes, suffice to say, there's still a lot of pins and things that I'd like to get back to. Anyway, I hope this has been fun. As ever, there's a lot more episodes for you to catch on the channel. We mentioned Sean and I did some episodes a bit like this a while ago, where we did a bit of road trip around Greece for 5 days. You can catch that. I'm sure that's up in the top right. The music you've been hearing in the background is ours. You can find it all on bandcamp.com. If you want to support the channel, that's the place to do it. Please follow us on all the socials. We'll be back very soon. I haven't decided what the next episode is going to be yet, but it will be unrelated.
Who knows?
So have a great one. We'll catch you on the next one very soon.
All the best.